Hey, Gator Nation, welcome back to another great episode of the Respect Our Decision podcast. Guys, as always, I am your boy Hirsch. With me, my two awesome co hosts, CJ the Man McCann
What's up, guys?
and the hype man Wes.
What's up, Gator Nation? What's up? What's up? Shout out to our softball team, girls. They did a unbelievable job. Everybody knows. Well, I'm gonna say everybody. If you watch softball or hear about it, Oklahoma is a freaking juggernaut. They going trying to win four in a row, and for those girls to go out and end that win streak, that home win, I think it was like 22 or 27. I know it was in the
20.
20, right at 20. So it was like 20 games in a row that Oklahoma had won, and to be able to win a game there and put themselves in position to actually go to the finals, being up in that game was spectacular. So I just wanted to, before we get into it, give those girls a big shout out because they really performed well, put themselves in position to go. So big shout out to our girls softball team.
Yeah, man, it was heartbreaking to see him get that close and lose. You feel for those ladies, but like you said, man, big props to them for going out there, doing their thing, representing Gator Nation the way they did, and the baseball team as well. And we're going to get to those boys in a little bit. CJ's got a little bit to say about Clemson and what to expect maybe out of that series as we move on to the Super Regional. Who would have thought? Last week we said, man, hey, maybe it'll be a tough road to hoe, but here we are. Another, you live to fight another day. So we got a lot to talk about between that, commitments, decommitment, uh, official visits this last weekend, more kids coming in, big weekend, the weekend after next. I mean, there's a lot going on for Gator Nation right now, even though that you only really have baseball kind of still in play. But before we get to that, guys, as always, a little housekeeping. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, drop a like on the video, and hit that notification bell so you get a notification when we drop new content. Leave a comment down below, guys. What is your prediction for the Florida Clemson series coming up at the Super Regional? Leave your prediction below. Do the Gators make it back to Omaha? Do they get swept? Is it a best 2 out of 3? Leave your predictions below, guys. We look forward to hearing them. I know CJ will go through with a fine tooth comb and hold everybody responsible for their comments. He's that kind of guy. And make sure you check out our newest episode of Pot of the People that we dropped this last week and the one that's coming up. We got a lot of questions coming in now, guys. We appreciate y'all so much for that support. CJ on this last episode dropped a mean Dusty Rhodes impression. It was the talk of the town. Everybody was commenting on it, said that they would be back solely based on that. We got people upset that Wes disappears during the videos. They think he vanishes. He's upsetting the kids that are watching the video. We're going to get right for you guys, man. We had a little powwow about it. CJ is going to do a Dusty impression every week from now until forever.
Yeah, forever. You're sick of Dusty Rhodes.
We're going to keep the entertainment coming. So, guys, also remember, you go out there and get us wherever you get your podcast from, guys. We're available on all platforms. And before we move on to all the conversating, if you haven't already, go out there, check out our friends at Florida Victorious. If you are able, go ahead, sign up for Florida Victorious. Support all of these great Gator athletes, the softball team, the baseball team, the football team, the basketball team. I mean, we got Richard and Clayton back. I mean, we got a lot going on out there, guys. A lot of positive mojo right now for Gator Nation. But we always need more support. Make sure you use our code DECISION. Get 20% off your first month, guys. You can choose where you want your money to go. Football, softball, basketball, all that great stuff. Support those Gator athletes, man. They appreciate it. Just makes our teams better. All right, boys. Let's jump on into it, man. This, like we said, we had official visitors on campus this last weekend. We weren't really expecting a 2026 commitment out of that. But Saturday, word got creeping out. You know how it works. Social media, everybody started talking. Oh, looks, we might have some good news today. And then all of a sudden, Will Griffin, quarterback out of Tampa down there, sends out a tweet. He said, I think it might be time. And we find out he's on campus. Well, hold up now. And then he says, oh, check me out, Instagram Live. And I go, hurrying on over to my Instagram live account there. I pull it up. Wait a minute. Here he is. He's on the field with Billy Napier shaking hands. It says commitment at the top. Well, all right. Let's just talk about it for a second. Will Griffin is one of the top 100 quarterbacks in the country for 2026. Now, I know some of y'all are saying, Hirsch, I could give two damns about 2026 recruits right now. I want to see W's on the field for 2020, this season coming up. I want to get a good 2025 class. I can't get mentally invested in 2026 yet. For the most part, I 100% agree with you. If it's any other player, I'm kind of like, nah. But the quarterback kind of matters to me, and there's reasons for that. One, this kid loves the Gators. He loves the Florida Gators. Grew up a big-time Gator fan, wanted to be a Florida Gator, made this commitment early, and has hit the ground running recruiting, not just for 26, but for this cycle as well. Because, if you're a young receiver coming into this class, you're not going to just be playing with DJ Lagway. DJ Lagway might be gone by the time, you're going into your junior season, what have you not. So this is a guy that comes into play as well. Something else that was brought to my attention. This is a kid, regardless of what happens this season, and let's just say for hypotheticals, you have a worst case scenario and Billy Napier is no longer the head coach of the University of Florida after this season. This is a kid that you could probably keep in the class, obviously it depends on the coach you hire. If you go out and hire some gimmicky coach, which, I don't think that's happening, but you understand my point here in this hypothetical, that might, he's going to stick around, that he could still be that cornerstone guy in a transitional class and things of that nature. So there's really no negatives to it. Noah Grubbs, the same day he committed to North Carolina, Notre Dame. That was another big target in Florida. And that just leaves Brady Hart as another one. And that young man was double legacy, and he was expected also maybe to Notre Dame was another. So he's kind of in limbo now. But the Gators have their quarterback for the future after DJ Lagway. And that is a good problem to have in your back pocket, whether you want to talk about 2026 recruiting or not. Wes, I'm going to start with you. What were your first thoughts when you saw this go down Saturday?
Hirsch, what I always say about the quarterback position. You remember you were CJ? Well, CJ's mic is off. So what do you know what I always say about the quarterback? It's the most important position in all of sports. I've said that over and over and over again, and I don't think there's no disagreement from you guys or the fans on that take. So, of course, you want to. We're not Georgia. You look at Ryan Day, and you look at the coach up in USC. If you're not those caliber of coaches putting guys in the NFL over and over and over every year, you want to kind of stagger your quarterbacks as far as big names. We talked about, I think we had a podcast a couple weeks ago where we talked about how do you want to allocate funds as far as the quarterback position. You want to, if you can, stagger. Does that mean you don't recruit a 25 quarterback? No. With the transfer portal and people getting upset, that means we don't have to go over a top 100 class quarterback. We just saw Max Brown, who looked like a capable backup, who put us in position to win the Missouri game, put us in position to win the FSU game. We thought the offense kind of got more conservative when we went up, but you want those type of kids in your program. So in the 2025 class, I know we're talking about Griffin, but I want to give people a lot, because me and Hurst had some words with a person on Twitter about this. You want to get maybe a top 300 guy, maybe a low 3-star, not a low 3-star, a high 3-star kid still in this 2025 class. Griffin has nothing to do with that, because you want somebody that maybe in year 4 may have to start. But speaking of Griffin, I love this. This is huge. Like you talked about, Hirsch. If DJ gets out of here and maybe 27, then that means that kid is a redshirt freshman playing his first snaps at the University of Florida, if I'm doing the math correctly. So you want him to be able to fight with the 2025 guy here that may be a 3-star. You don't want to just hand him anything, even though because he's coming in this redshirt freshman year. But I like the part that you brought up about he's bought into the program, not just the coaches that here. So if the worst case scenario comes where we know this is a tough schedule, we know Billy's seat is pretty hot. This is a guy that the new coaching staff that may come in can keep. if they're doing what they're supposed to do, if there's somebody they like, then meeting with him, getting him in here is somebody they can keep. So I like it. Top 100 kid, following DJ is kind of the stagger. You got your top 100 guy to come in, but I wanted to harp on. Does that mean we're not going to recruit anybody in the 2025 class? I don't know, but I would personally do it. And I think Hirsch agrees with me on that. Cause like I said, we talked with somebody about that. But yeah, I
But
would
they're still
want to.
recruiting quarterbacks. It ain't like they
Yeah,
just all of a sudden. I mean, Antoine Hill was on campus when this took
exactly.
place.
So
Tramel Jones is still in play. Keelan Russell was taken out of play. He flipped his commitment from SMU to Alabama. But it's not like you can see what their footprint is. They're
yeah,
still, they're still recruiting quarterbacks.
yeah,
And Billy has shown no shyness in recruiting top flight quarterbacks for this program.
exactly. So I'm all aboard. I'm happy. Was excited when the kid said he wanted to commit, and that shows a lot that this is 2 years out in a sense. And Billy might be on. That shows his love for Florida. And then you talked about him recruiting kids in the 25 class and the 26 class. You always want to get your quarterback early if you can. We did that with DJ, and we see it here. So hopefully we can get a guy in the 25 class to keep the momentum going. We don't have to, in my opinion, and I think again you guys will concur and agree with me on this. We don't have to go after, and it doesn't have to be an Antoine Hill in 2025. I would rather allocate our limited funds towards maybe some offensive linemen, some defensive players, and things like that. Now that you have the 26, you try to find a guy that's bought into the program in 2025, in my opinion. But yeah, I'll let CJ leave some meat on the bone for CJ to talk about some things.
CJ?
Yeah, a kid from Tampa. That's always a plus.
That's one of my biggest wins of the whole thing too.
As a Tampa kid, you're talking about the athletes he's going to play with, play against. Definitely could be a recruiting tool with a guy like that. Tampa produces great players. Wide receiver is definitely an area that we could address in Tampa. But you get those kids out of there, you get a footprint, a foothold. With a guy that's there, that's playing with these kids, that's doing 7-on-7s. He's got teammates. So that's one of my biggest things with it. And we're talking about an era where guys that for better or worse, we're dealing with an era where guys will transfer when they feel homesick. If they come in and with a guy like him, with Will, he's not going to be homesick. This is the team he wants. He's right up the road. You don't really have to worry about him, jumping ship and trying to go home, which is, a positive in my mind. And I think that they've made a more concerted effort as opposed to last year's class to really recruit the state of Florida heavily. They've done it a lot in the 25 class, and now you start with the 26 class with a kid like him. It really, to me, it speaks volumes of where they think they need to be at. I think, like I said, understanding in this era of football, it is really important to get kids close to home. Kids that don't, that won't, turn and try to go home and, worry about, what's going on back there. And there's an easy out for them now. You got kids that get homesick and things like that. So it would be good to really recruit the state of Florida, and of course, just the great athletes that are in Florida that we could take advantage of. Kids that are Gators, that grew up Gators. This is their team. Now you have a quarterback who really is invested in that. You look back at the great quarterbacks that Florida's had. Most of those guys were Gators growing up. This was their team. John Brantley was a Gator. Danny Warfel was a Gator. Those guys loved this team. This is where they wanted to play. So you end up with kids like that really, really are committed. And I think that we've gotten one of those guys. He's talented, supremely talented. He's a bigger kid. He's only going to grow. He's got a couple more seasons to really get better. But he's already way further ahead than a lot of kids that are older than him. So you've got a couple of years to build on that. Florida's going to definitely be the place for him. He's not going to be able to have to, now that he's committed to Florida, he's not really worried about anything else. Kid can just put his head down. He can play ball. He knows where he's going to be at. Come that fall when he rolls into the 26 class. So I think it's a win-win for everybody involved. I think it's a great pickup. I think Billy Napier has shown that he, for better or worse, is very good at recruiting quarterbacks. A lot of things that have happened have been out of his control with some of the negative things that's happened at the quarterback position that we've talked about. Things that really didn't have much to do with him. But as far as the actual recruiting quarterback, you take all the extra stuff out of the way. Billy Napier is a very good guy when you want that you would want recruiting quarterbacks.
And that's crazy because, I mean, if you think all the way back to when Billy first got hired and he started recruiting, everybody was really alarmed at first about Billy because he didn't get a quarterback early and he went away, a while without getting a quarterback. And, you heard all this, well, can Billy recruit a quarterback? And then, of course, we had the Rashada situation and all that went with that. But ever since then, I mean, Billy has killed it in the quarterback recruiting. Even, I mean, obviously you lost Austin Simmons as well, but that situation is kind of in hindsight. The Rashada situation, But I mean, these are all kids that have committed to the University of Florida and Billy Napier and believe in what he's selling. So I think we've ended up, as we lost Wes there temporarily. He might have lost. Oh, there he is. I lost my train of thought because Wes disappeared. It happens.
Disappointing the children again, Wes.
Yeah, I think we're in a better. I think things have fallen the way they needed to fall, though. I think we're in a really good position with the quarterback room. I don't think many people can argue that, especially if you're able to go out and add a Tramel Jones or an Antoine Hill, someone like that to this class. And that room is just solid. So let's move on to other things that are going on as far as the offensive side of the ball. Coming out of the weekend, you had a surprising, at least a neat, at first glance, a surprising decommit in Josiah Abdullah, the wide receiver out of Georgia, who was our first commitment of this class. And, it was kind of like, whoa, where'd that come from? But you start calling around, you do a little research, and you start to kind of figure out, oh, well, this wasn't by accident. This wasn't something that just kind of, it's not a matter of, oh, maybe we weren't paying him enough attention or anything like that. This is one of the good old mutual parting of ways, so to speak, in the recruiting world. Both parties felt that it was in their interest to move in different directions. And the reason that is now, it seems to be, is the University of Florida, Billy Napier and company feel a lot better with the other targets they have on the board. Obviously, Vernell Brown is at the top of that list. A legacy commit, not commit yet. You want him to be a commit, but a legacy visitor next weekend when we have the big recruiting weekend on the 14th. But you had two kids in town this last weekend. Joshua Moore, tall receiver. We talked about him. Nashawn Montgomery out of South Florida was in town. That's a young man that right now he come out. He named Florida his #1 school after his visit. He's going to take a visit to Penn State, and he's supposedly taking one to LSU. I know Tom Loy had put in a prediction for him to go to Penn State. But there are some now that don't believe that's much of a threat. And, a lot of those Florida kids aren't looking to go up there unless they have to. And if you've got an in-state offer to stay in the Sunshine State versus going and living in Pennsylvania, most of these kids, unless they're trying to get away from something, are apt to stay in the Sunshine State. So, and then, of course, you got CJ Ingram out there that the Gators have been linked to for a minute now. If he's going to play receiver or not, I'm sure that's still up in the air. He's a very big-bodied kid, but the Gators as a whole feel a lot better about their positioning with a lot of other wide receiver recruits. Dallas Wilson as well. He'll be here next weekend as well on a visit. The young man that's committed to Oregon that's out of the Tampa area, 5-star prospect. And this weekend coming up, you have Caleb Montgomery in town, which, hey, he's a 5-star. He's a kid that's probably pegged to go somewhere else, but you give it your best shot. You see where it falls. You've still got DJ Lagway on campus to, hey, this is your quarterback of the future right here. It's a major selling point. So I don't think any of us are really that upset or shocked by the decommitment of Abdullah. We're not going to spend much time here talking about it. It is what it is. You see this every cycle. Nobody should be shocked or be like, what is going on? Are the wheels falling off? No. Billy and company are going to conduct business in a certain way. It's the same thing that happened with Peyton Joseph. Peyton Joseph wanted to take a bunch of visits. Billy was kind of like, you're either committed or you're not. The kid says, well, I'm going to take these visits. And Billy said, well, you have a nice day. These things happen. They happen every year. I, for one, am always glad to see a coaching staff kind of put their foot down a little bit. Don't get bullied. Go out there and recruit and get more guys to fill their spots. So let's talk about some of the official visits we had this last weekend. A little summary real quick. Obviously, we just spoke about Nashawn Montgomery. We talked about Joshua Moore. Gators feel like they're in a good spot with both of those young men. I think Montgomery probably better than Moore, but get me some wide receivers, Billy Gonzalez. That's all I ask. Defensive lineman Jarquez Carter. CJ's talked about him a couple weeks in a row. It's looking more and more likely that this is a kid that's a matter of when, not if, for the Gators. Like, this one's pretty much sewed up. The kid was back in town again today. I believe there was a 7-on-7 or something in Gainesville today. So he was in town with his team. We've talked about Antoine Hill. Antoine Hill was in town. It was talked about all weekend he got in town on Friday and he posted a picture and people were like, oh, look, they put him in the Hotel 6. You can tell they don't want this kid. Look at the hotel he's in, because he posted a picture from his bed pointing towards the wall or something like that. And I didn't put a whole lot of stock into it because the schools and like Katie and company, they can't go in and decorate the rooms and stuff anymore. It's not the same vibe that it was before. That's an NCAA violation now. Not that I mean, it carries a whole lot of weight, but but Antoine Hill comes out of the visit and he does the interview circuit and he says, well, this visit did a lot for me. I talked to Billy and company, yada, yada. I feel really good with where things sit. Now, Antoine Hill's still going to make a visit to Memphis. I believe it's this weekend. So then you start to think, well, is this just that jargon where you go out and you put a lot of lines out there and you try to get the other team to up their offer a little more? It's a wait and see. We really don't know what's going on behind the scenes there. I think the young man loves the University of Florida. I absolutely think he does. I just don't think he loves the idea of sitting behind DJ Lagway for a couple years. And let's be honest, in this day of NIL, do you want to give a kid the money it takes to get that commitment just to have him bounce on you after a year of sitting on the bench or whatever have you not? Because once you give him that, at least that part is gone. So it's a waste of assets. A couple other notes real quick, and I'm going to throw it around to the guys. Both tight ends that came enjoyed their visits immensely. Micah Jones, Tayshawn Gelsey, both kids named UF their leader. Everyone that's anyone thinks that UF locks both of these guys up sooner than later. It'd be really awesome to seeing us focus on the tight end room like this. That's a real positive. Micah Jones, we didn't talk a whole lot about him last week, but this is a young man out of Mississippi out there. And if you don't just look at the 3-star rating and you go look at that young man's offer list, it is phenomenal. Lane Kiffin loves this kid. He's got offers from Alabama, from Auburn, from A&M, from pretty much anybody in the SEC. He's got offers from. So big-time kid. And then lastly, offensive tackle Zaire Addison said he had a great visit, enjoyed his time in Gainesville. Most people say he's kind of close to the vest kind of kid. You're not going to get a lot out of where you stand with that. It sounds like the Gators did what they were supposed to do on the visit. That's a wait and see. Hopefully some more intel comes out. CJ, hearing all this and any other things that you picked up out of this weekend, anything really stand out to you?
No, I think it's just a classic. You can look back at our trends of how Billy Napier's recruited. These big recruiting weekends happen and you don't get a bunch of commits and the people are like, whoa, what are we doing? And
every year.
Yeah, and then it comes, maybe, a few weeks later, at the end of the month, you get to July, and a lot of those kids that took the visits at this point end up committing. That's just the way they like to do it. They like to bunch them up. So I'm not worried about a lot of this right now. As we get closer, you'll find out who's really in and who's really just kind of playing the game. You read these kids' quotes, and I've never seen a kid ever give a quote of, "Oh man, this visit was trash. It was terrible. I hated it." That just ain't gonna happen. So every kid's gonna be very glowing. AJ Hill's a guy. You talk about Antoine Hill. He's a great quarterback. You'd love to have him. He's a guy that I've been on since I think I started on this show as a quarterback that I really liked in this class. And I think honestly, it probably does Florida more good to just keep a really good relationship with him. If he goes to Memphis, that's great, because if he does a great job at somewhere like that, he ain't going to stay there. He's going to hit the portal, and then he's going to go to a bigger school. So if you keep the relationship open with a kid like that, you find yourself in a spot you need a quarterback. We've already seen it a lot in the transfer portal. You just circle on back, and he already knows the coaches, and that's a possible outcome for Florida. So I get it. Like I said, I'm shocked that more kids. I said this last week. I'm shocked more kids don't take the route of going to one of these Group of Five schools and being able to play sooner, and really just putting some good film out there, hitting the portal, and trying your hand there to like a second recruitment, where teams are going to be a little more accepting of a guy to come in and play, because if they're looking for a quarterback, they need a guy who could play pretty soon. So I completely get that. Like I said, I'm surprised more kids don't do that. The wide receiver room with Josiah Abdullah, a kid I watched played us in the state title game at Woodward Academy. He's a great player. Kid's gonna surprise a lot of folks, but I think that Florida just feels like they have better options still on the board. And that happens sometimes. That's part of recruiting. It's cyclical. It changes. When he committed to us at the time, it didn't feel like there was a whole bunch of offers on the board for him. But now, as you see with this recruiting visit, Joshua Moore is coming through here. Montgomery's coming through here. Of course, you feel better with Vernell Brown. You've got a lot of options now. It's not what it was. There was a fear of how to recruit wide receivers here because, you have DJ Lagway, but they're not going to be so hot on that if the season gets here. And they're worried about the employment. Who's going to be my coach? Am I even going to get to play with DJ Lagway? A lot of those are questions that these kids are going to ask, and coaches are going to tell them the same thing that are negatively recruiting against us. Everybody who's going to tell you, "Oh, Billy ain't going to be there. You ain't going to play with DJ Lagway." So it's going to be a little bit of an uphill battle, but I feel like those kids have come in now and really let Billy Napier talk to them, and understood where Florida's at as a program, what he believes. So we're going to see how that pans out. It's going to hinge on how the season goes, of course. If you win some games this year, if you win 7-8 games this year, and you look pretty good, you'll probably be sitting pretty better, pretty much a lot better than you are right now with these wide receivers, because they can feel a little more comfortable about what's the room going to look like, who's going to be their quarterback, who's going to be their coach. So I think, like I said, it's just one of those things where we're going to have these big recruiting weekends. Florida's going to do this. You might not see a lot of commitments, but just hold on, because as the last couple of cycles have shown us, they are coming, but it's going to be all at one time, whether that's the Friday Night Lights or the Grill in the Ville, whatever they wanted to do at this point, however they kind of arrange that. But Billy Napier knows how important that is when you can get a cluster of commitments at one time. You take over the airwaves, as we saw last year. Every recruiting site is like, "Whoa, what's Florida doing?" And Josh Pate is like, "Whoa, what's Florida doing?" And it helps out. So I get what he's doing. It's worked. But again, like I said, we've all been pretty upfront and honest about, we really need to see this season go well for any of this to matter. But these coaches are not going to stop recruiting. These coaches do a very good job at recruiting. the NIL and all that stuff has kind of gotten in the way of what we perceive as doing a good job of recruiting. You take that away, Billy Napier and company have probably been the best set of recruiters we've had on staff in a long time. These kids really like them. They do a good job at what they do. So again, great weekend. Get as many kids as you can get in there. Um, pitch what you have for them, even if it doesn't seem completely likely. If they're super high rated and they've got crystal balls here and there and all that other stuff, if you get them on campus, we've seen it 100 times. You can change their mind. And this staff is very good at selling their vision and selling the University of Florida.
Wes, anything stand out to you that CJ didn't mention?
Nah, CJ and both you guys pretty much covered it all. Next weekend is the weekend that we're looking at as far as the huge weekend. We love how Billy it's been consistent as he's been here with having these big momentum things. You look at guys from different weekends, and then you like this guy committed, and he was here that weekend, and this guy committed, he was here the same weekend, and so forth and so forth. So that speaks to him understanding momentum, understanding putting your team in the news and getting those positive vibes going. So if I had to pick out some things as far as recruits that were here, you guys both when you talked about the two tight ends that were here, Hirsch, and I know we've kind of been lacking for some playmaking tight ends since Pitts left. And I don't really look at rankings so much when it comes to tight ends because it's kind of weird. Pitts was a 4-star. He wasn't looked at as like this transformational guy coming out of high school. He was just looked at a 4-star guy that we don't know. They don't know if he's going to play wide receiver. They don't know if he's going to play tight end. He has this weird body type. They don't know how he's going to fit in. And the dude looked like a freaking monster, as we all know. So, but you spoke about Jones and his and all his offers out there as far as the SEC and how Lane loves him. I just want a guy that can do both. I mean, you see these guys that go to Iowa and then turn out in the league and like, where do they find these guys at? And it's just a solid guy, the 3-star guy that they found that's good at blocking and catching and good at doing the job. So I'm intrigued by the tight ends. We need more tight ends in the class. I know we got Amir last year, and to me, he's that not that inline type of tight end. I think he's more flexed out Kyle Pitts. Not calling him Kyle Pitts, guys. I said he's that type of body type that maybe can make some up the seams type catches as far as tight end. But I want some guys that can block. Billy likes to run the ball, so I want those mean guys that you can line up on the outside of the tackle and be able to mash people. So maybe run some 21 personnel and things like that. So I'm excited for that, and hopefully we can build a relationship. You know how I feel about the offensive lineman, as you spoke. This kid is real tight to the vest, doesn't let a lot go out. So hopefully we'll get some news in the future about him and his visit, and hopefully that's a guy that we can get in this class as well. But right now, coming off this weekend, I'm really not expecting much right now, but we can expect hopefully to see some guys commit towards when the summer is ending and the season is about to begin, as we always like. I think CJ alluded to like the cookout and things like that. When you see the guys come together and we just have like a little meet and greet, which I like Billy does with rapport, and we talked about Hill and the relationship with him. Who knows what might happen? CJ talked about these kids sometimes might start going to smaller schools just to put some film out, just to play early and to get the college football feel out, and then they transfer to a big time Power 5, and you never want to break those relationships. You saw that with Howard, how we got him in here. We never gave up on that kid, even though he went to the University of South Carolina, and look what he's at now. He's probably going to be starting for us at linebacker this year. So you want to always keep those relationships. We talked about Grimsley. That's another one. Guy went to Alabama. Where's he at now? University of Florida. So you have to keep these relationships. The staff does a good job. Not only the coaches, but Katie and everybody as well. Keeping those relationships, building those rapports, making those kids feel like, hey, if anything ever happens, if I go somewhere where I don't like, and Florida's my second school, I don't mind coming back here because they treat everybody like family, and they really care. So I'm all about that.
Ooh. Excuse me there. Yeah, they made a pretty good impression, I think, on a great wide group of prospects as far as the first week goes. And like we said, the weekend of the 14th is lining up to be the huge weekend. And one of the reasons that is there's a huge 7-on-7 tournament in Tampa this weekend that a lot of the skill players that we would be recruiting, like Vernell Brown and company, will be at, Dallas Wilson, etc. So this weekend we have a little bit of a small. It's still 13 kids, but I don't ever want to say that some kids are fillers. But I think some of these kids that are coming this weekend are fallbacks over other options. So we're not going to go too deep into all these names. We're going to cover pretty much just the core 4 or 5 guys. And it starts at the top of the list. Solomon Thomas, the offensive lineman out of Jacksonville. He's currently committed to Florida State. He took a visit last weekend to LSU, came out and said he had an unbelievable time at LSU. Now, talking to certain people that know the kid, I think this is a kid that at the end of the day is going to stay in the state of Florida. He's very deep family, oriented, things like that. Really involved in his church, things of that nature. So it comes down to how much of an impression you can make on like this official visit. There's 3 5-star, recruits coming on this visit, but this to me is the guy you've got to roll the entire red carpet out for. Rob Sell needs to be on his best behavior, whatever his best recruiting pitch is. He needs to have it ready to go and not trip over his tongue and get it right, because this is the guy, to me, this would be one of the benchmark recruits of this class, is if you could flip Solomon Thomas from FSU somehow. Jacksonville kid, and I don't think I need to tell anybody how the Gators should and used to recruit Jacksonville. Like that shouldn't even be, we shouldn't even have to have much of a conversation about that. So obviously to me, Solomon Thomas is the headliner of this weekend. I don't need to say a whole lot more than that. I mean, this is a kid that we need to do whatever it takes to make a Gator. I mentioned wide receiver Caleb Cunningham out of Mississippi. He's taking this visit. I know Mississippi State's on the kid. I know Ole Miss is on the kid. I know Bama's on the kid. I'm sure LSU is, even though I haven't. I think this is a courtesy visit, nothing more. I know he liked what he saw and heard at the time he's been to Florida before. I just, and I have to see us get that 5-star wide receiver kid before I can truly believe Billy Gonzalez is out there pulling a 5-star wide receiver kid. And I hate to be that way, but hey, prove me wrong. And I won't be that way. That's, but the old adage is you get them on campus and anything can happen. Sure. Absolutely. The next kid, Trey McNutt, defensive back out of Ohio. And I can already hear everybody that just heard those words together say, well, that kid's going to Ohio State. Yeah, you're probably right. He probably is going to Ohio State. But once again, you get him on campus, you see what happens. I mean, if a kid with the last name McNutt in Ohio isn't going to Ohio State, I don't know if they're ever going to. I mean, like, that's just too perfect. But once again, get the kid on campus, sell him your vision, put Coach Harris on him, work your magic. See what he says coming out of the weekend. I mean, that's all you can do. Commitment, Jalen Wiggins will be in town. That's good news to hear, because he was at Stanford a weekend ago. And hey, man, good for the kid. If you can take an official visit to Stanford, I've always said, man, if a kid's good enough to go to Stanford, he should at least be able to take that visit, because that's big time, to be that smart and have worked that hard in school to have that much of an honor. But I mean, I still think we're in a really good shape to keep Jalen Higgins. He loves the University of Florida. Get him on campus. Crank the love back up. One of the final names I want to talk about is legacy Ben Hanks will be on campus as well this weekend. Now, this young man out of Booker T. Washington High School down in Miami. For the longest time, it didn't look like Florida was recruiting him hard enough. Now it seems like Florida has really creeped back into the picture. And, Miami was considered the favorite for a long time. But right now it looks like you could be running neck and neck for young Mr. Hanks. And look, I don't think there's anybody that would be upset adding a legacy like Ben Hanks, to this class. I think we'd all expect Ben Hanks Jr. to be in this class. So another young man that's coming, Micah DeBose, he's an inside linebacker. Currently, I'm sorry, he's out of Alabama. He's favored to LSU. He's, Bama's recruiting him. Linebackers in Alabama, though, we've had good luck in the past. And then we had one more linebacker, Miles Johnson, and that's why I had it confused for a second. Miles Johnson is actually committed to Alabama. He's a linebacker also out of Bruton, Alabama. He's taking a visit as well, trying to get us a couple linebackers in this class. We'll have to see how that shakes out. It's going to be hard to shake an Alabama kid that's already committed to Alabama. But I think at the end of the day, the first three guys are the main meat on the bone of this visit. Obviously, you got 3 5-star prospects, and then Ben Hanks. I mean, I think this is a good weekend to give a lot of those kids some individual attention. Like I said, Solomon Thomas to me is the no-brainer of that. You got to get that kid on campus, work your magic. Hey, what's it going to take to get you to, hey, look, you're closer to home. Gainesville, man. Your family doesn't have to go as far. Hey, it's a great selling point. What else can you do? Wes, out of those names I mentioned, I mean, obviously we've talked about offensive line ad nauseum. I don't think I have to speak for you on that case, but wouldn't you say that's probably the biggest of the visits this weekend?
You know where I'm going to go. Of course, I'm going to go with him. To get that kid in and have that kid solidify a line that could possibly come in and start day one because he's a talented kid. With DJ probably being taking the snaps next year, I'm all for it. We chronicle tackle position and how we've kind of did a good job inside with the centers and the guards. That's something that I have to commend the staff for. Yeah, we did get a guy that transferred in this past cycle as far as transfer portal as far as tackle, but you want to have bookend tackles as well. We would like to see DJ be a pocket passer, and we speaking projecting for next year when we talking about recruits this year. So to get a guy of that caliber in this class is a big, especially we know what the schedule is, we know what Billy Nipper's seat is, and to get that guy in would be huge. And I'm hopefully we can get him in, and he's talented, he's good. You talked about the things that that are important to him. And that's something that this staff needs to lean on. Like you said, this is going to be like a light class coming in as far as recruiting compared to next week, and they need to have roll the red carpet out. They need to have the red carpet rolled out and spend as much time. Sale and company need to put their foot down. Billy Napier needs to be involved. And we talked about allocating funds and not getting that top 100 quarterback, Hill. I would prefer getting that tackle. Getting your left tackle, maybe your right tackle to pair with the guy that you brought in from the portal this year and have bookend tackles for the future. So I'm excited. I'm hopefully we can lock this down, put that down that we can get this kid in. And so you have your left or right tackle to pair with the guy that you brought in. So I'm happy and I'm excited for it. I don't want to say it's not a marquee class because you got, like you say, we got 3 5-stars coming in and Hanks as well. So you want to if you want this legacy kid, you got to get him in the class as well. So I want Hanks, and if I had to pick out 2 guys, it would be Hanks in the offensive line.
CJ, what do you think? Is that what you're kind of thinking too?
Yeah, I mean, of course, offensive line is where we need to be looking at. But cool with Hanks, that would be really cool if you were able to get him and Ingram and Vernell Brown, and then you add with Miles Graham and Trey Webb. You just have a lot of Gator legacies on one team, and that would be really cool for us to see. Those things. And understand too. I totally get that it's some people are kind of iffy about legacies because of you kind of. They kind of expect special treatment, or their dad expects special treatment, or whatever. But I like having those kids because I feel like they care so much more about the logo They grew up around it. This is what they wanted to do. Mike Peterson has his son as well coming through, and he looks pretty good at playing wide receiver, running some pretty good routes. So, yeah, Hanks would be cool to add. But again, like you said, that Solomon Thomas offensive line, that's where we really need to be focused at. If you could get I mean, I couldn't even imagine getting him and Addison in the same class. That would put me in a coma. I think I'd be so happy. But we really need to see some more of that high level offensive line recruiting, especially at the tackle spots. And I understand, tackles are premium. They're the most important offensive line position. It's hard to get those kids, especially now NIL is paying offensive tackles more than just about anybody outside of the quarterbacks. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that. There are some pretty good feelings about Solomon Thomas within the program. A lot of the guys kind of like where we stand with him. So we'll see what happens. Get him on campus, really roll out the red carpet, and just absolutely do your best at recruiting. Put that recruiter cap on, let Billy Napier talk the talk, walk the walk, and see where we're at after this weekend.
Absolutely, man. Look, I know a lot of people will, for better terms, poo-poo on some of this. You bring these guys in, you don't have a chance. I mean, what are we doing? And look, you can't recruit that way. You just can't. In the recruiting game, you always got to be shooting your shot. That's what it is. I mean, I'm sure there were more than, I don't know how many people that would have said when we started recruiting DJ Lagway, we didn't have a shot. Quarterback out of Texas, Billy Napier hadn't. Now, granted, every recruitment isn't going to be the DJ Lagway recruitment. Let's just be honest. But you get these guys on campus. You've got to recruit the footprint of Florida. Solomon Thomas. I mean, we've talked about this. Last year was such a lean crop of offensive linemen from Florida. So now you got a chance to add someone like Addison and someone like Thomas. You got to get these kids and fortify this offensive line recruiting. We've talked about it over and over again. This is a very solid class where if you're not adding a big-time quarterback or players like that, you need to add some of these other solid pieces that we've talked about over and over again so that Billy can build these lines of scrimmage. You've still got Pickett out there in safety that you're still going to try to come after and try to get that young man on campus. We want to add some wide receivers this class, not just a couple. We need to add 3 to 4 wide receivers this class. So between this weekend, obviously with this small batch of guys, and then like we said, the weekend after, the weekend of the 14th, and we're going to break that all down next week. That should be a fun weekend. I'm not going to say that as soon as the weekend's over, you're going to get 5-6 commits like we did last year after the big recruiting weekend. But I think that leads into, by the end of the month, you seeing maybe 3 or 4 more kids in this class, whether it be Montgomery, Vernell Brown, maybe CJ Ingram, and they may not all be sexy. If Micah Jones commits tomorrow, everybody's going to be like, I know what the general feeling is going to be. Oh, well, that's a 3-star tight end. Woohoo! But you've got to look at it a little deeper than that. Hey, we need tight ends. We've been saying it for we got a mirror, but that tight end room is the land of misfit toys, kind of, it feels like sometimes. So we've come to a point where we need to get some athletes in that room again. So let's see how this shakes out, guys. Just like we're going to see how things shake out this weekend in the Super Regional. CJ, they called you a fool. They called you a dreamer.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Here we are.
And we just got a commitment from a transfer.
We did get his transfer commitment. Landon Stripling. He played at Parkview High School in Georgia,
and that's all I needed to hear.
He's actually from, I think, Winter Haven, Florida, originally. So I'm sure he's got family down here. He was a highly touted prospect. I don't know how much he played at Texas Tech. Looking at some of his numbers,
I don't know 33 games, but his stats were low.
Yeah, and yeah, the kid's 19. He's got room to grow. I think he was batting like 250 But to get a guy like that to kind of work with, infielder, I'm assuming he'll play either first or third base. I'm thinking third because Dale Thomas is graduating, so I think that's probably where he'll end up. We'll see, but definitely a kid who was a highly touted prospect. Could potentially be a great player for us. Now that you've got him in, you can work with him, and Kevin O'Sullivan does a great job of developing talent. So yeah, good for them. We'll see what we do. We need to be very aggressive in the recruiting, the portal, because of we saw some issues this year with us not being as aggressive, especially pitching. I'd like to see us go after some pitchers. I think the gentleman out of East Carolina, Mr. Root, would be a good addition if we could find a way to do that. But I'm sure he's going to demand a pretty hefty chunk, and I think a lot of the teams around the country are going to be after him. But at one point, he was a Florida baseball commit, so there is that still there lingering for him. So yeah, but enough about that. The Gators are headed to a super regional. They're headed to the Clemson super regional. They won the Stillwater regional. Nobody gave us a snowball's chance in hell. Congratulations to those guys. Lost a game and fought back. Last year we lost a game and fought back. So good job by those guys. Really starting to come together, playing their best baseball of the season. And can you continue this? Can you continue to be a hot team? And that's all that matters now. We're in the part of the year where the hot team is gonna, make a run. I said, when we talked about going into this tournament, this team was every bit as talented as any other team in the field. They had absolutely the firepower, the players to make a run. Now they have the opportunity to do it. Clemson's a very good team. Clemson, depending on where you look, was anywhere from the first to third best team in the ACC. Very high at the top. North Carolina, Florida State, Clemson, right there. Wake Forest not so much this year. So those three teams really stepped up. Clemson has done a very good job this year. Last year they had a good team, but this year I think they've taken another step forward. It's going to be a tough matchup for us. Those guys are really playing some good baseball. So Kevin O'Sullivan go into his old team. Gonna learn. It has definitely some history in there. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. Jack Caglione still chasing Matt Laporta on the home run record. I think Jack's at 70. He's got 4 more to tie Laporta. We're going to need some games. We're going to need to find a way to make it to Omaha to really stretch out the games to get a little further down the road to give him a chance to do that. So congratulations. How in the world Jack Caglione's not a finalist for the Golden Spikes, I don't know. I won't understand it. I think anybody who's watched him this year has seen one of the best baseball players in the country, both on the mound and hitting the baseball. So, it kind of takes the wind out of me because I hate it for him because he deserves to be definitely in that conversation. But we'll see what the Gators do. We see where we head. We've seen a lot of the guys grow up pitching wise. Peterson, McNelly, Clemente, Slater, of course, Neely, all doing a fantastic job. Can they continue to progress as young pitchers, which is what we've talked about all year, is the young pitchers are going to have to grow up. Now, are they finally doing that? Is this the time where they're taking the next step? And if it is, it's a great time to be taking the next step. We've seen teams like us get into the tournament, teams that everyone thought were going to be easy outs. We saw Ole Miss make a run. We saw Oklahoma make a run. So we have a chance. We've got great talent around the field. So I'm eager to see what these guys do against Clemson. I don't think anybody should ever count us out. I think we definitely got the talent to get through it. And I would not be shocked if we do make it because the team is that good. You've got the pieces. We played such a hard schedule that our record isn't really, indicative of how good of a team we really are. So we'll see what happens. I'm excited for it. The baseball season is not over with yet. The guys are still playing some great baseball. And again, like Wes said at the top of the show, congratulations to the girls. They did a great job in the softball World Series. Really appreciate that.
We just added another commitment out of the transfer portal for baseball while we were talking about the other one. breaking news, Nick Delatorre, always on top of his game. Shout out to Nick, man. No one covers Florida baseball better, except CJ. I got to plug my own dude.
No,
Man,
no, no. I'm not.
I know,
I'm not.
but I got to plug my own dude. I'm live, man. I can't. Look, I
uh,
love Nick. Everybody loves Nick except those that don't like Nick, and that just makes you a hater. No, seriously, infielder from Jacksonville University. Justin Nadeau just committed. This is a young man who's got 2 years of eligibility left. He can play multiple positions in the infield. Hit .395 last season. And in 29 starts out of 30 games. So, and stole like 11 out of 12 bases.
Yeah, Jacksonville plays some pretty good teams.
And they did. I remember. Yeah, they're a good team.
I mean, Jacksonville plays, us, and they play Florida State, and they play a lot of teams that are really good, really good teams that I think that people sleep on them as far as how they produce baseball talent. So definitely another guy that like I said, I'd heard that Sully had some transfers on campus. He's going to work on this because the guy is a great recruiter. He always has been. And like I said, we really need to see that pitching kind of strengthen up. But now a lot of the teams, I think you're going to see a lot more guys hit that portal. You're coming up on the draft, the MLB draft that's going to take place here the next month. And a lot of these teams are finishing up tournament stuff. So we're really going to see what's going to be available. You got to see what kids are going to declare for the draft. What kids are, coming out of high school? Are they going to play? Are they not going to play? Are they going to go play MLB? Baseball is kind of like it's really fluid. A lot of things can change because you're, like I said, picking from a talent pool that doesn't have to wait, that don't have to go play college sports. They can go straight to the major leagues and start getting paid and all that good stuff. So it's a different animal than football or basketball. You're really waiting. It's a lot of hurry up and wait to figure out what exactly these kids are going to do. What are their decisions going to be? We've seen Florida millions of times recruit really good players, and they end up going to play in the MLB draft because of how good they are. And, it's a good problem to have, but then you have to replace. Now with the portal, it gives us an opportunity, and then too, you run the risk like we did last year of getting a good player out of the portal, only to him to decide, hey, my major league draft stock's okay. I like where it's at. I think I'm going to go do that. So we'll see what we do. I think that this is a good way to get started, and I'm eager to see where we go from here in the coming weeks.
Yes, sir, man. I'm, like I said last year, this is when I really tune into baseball. Baseball is such a funny, different sport than football. I know a lot of people watch every pitch of Florida baseball, and you're the real MVPs. Don't get me wrong, because I'm that guy that tunes in as the season gets late. Tell me where we're going to be seated, where the first regional is, super regional. I'm watching, but I'm not getting too overly invested in midweek games back 2 months ago. I just don't, because I know how baseball shakes out, and talent wins out more times than not in the end. But I'm also a guy that watched the Braves play in the 90s with the most dominant pitching staff I ever saw, and one of the greatest managers in baseball history, and won one World Series. So I don't get too emotionally invested into baseball until it's right to the end, because I just know how the highs and lows, the ebbs and flows, go with baseball, and it's just a different animal altogether. But man, I love this time of year and seeing the emotion out of the players, man, when you get that one big hit, that one big catch. I hope they pull it out and get to play some more baseball, just so we can all watch and get to enjoy a few more games of Jack Caglione in a Florida Gator uniform before he moves on to do great things at the next level. All right, guys, that is going to do it for this week's episode. Like we said, had a lot of info this week, man, a lot of stuff going on. Just because there's only one sport left really kind of doing things on the field right now doesn't mean the information stops flowing. And it's going to be like that all the way up into football season, guys. We're going to keep it coming. We're going to keep the information coming to you. We appreciate y'all's support, man. It's been great. Subscriber numbers are going up. We're trying to hit 4,000 before kickoff of the opening game. So please help us out with that. Make sure you check out Pod of the People this week. Going to be a lot of great questions that getting answered on that. CJ, what do you got before we drop out of here?
Just thank you guys so much for supporting us. Check out our friends at Alma Mater. Use our link. Father's Day is coming up. Get your dad something. Your dad's a big Gator fan. Get him something. They got all kinds of stuff over there: t-shirts, hats, just rolling out different stuff every day. I can't keep up with it for all the sports, all the players. You can get whatever you want, and it supports the players. It goes back to the NIL budget. So check that stuff out. Also, use our code. Check out Florida Victorious. Donate if you can. Help out the NIL. Choose where you want your donations to go. All that good stuff. Help out in the recruiting game at baseball, basketball, football, girls softball, whatever. If it's a Gator sport, they take care of it. So if you want to be involved in that, do that if you can. Thank you guys so much for the Facebook chats and the Twitter and the YouTube comments, the likes and the subscriptions. We really appreciate you. Thank you for allowing us to grow as creators. We really couldn't be here without you guys. We're creeping up on I think 100 episodes of doing this. So
this
thank
is
you guys
number
so
97.
much. So we're knocking on the door of 100 episodes. So thank you guys so much. We wouldn't be able to do it without you.
Absolutely. Wes, take us home, brother.
Yeah, big stuff. We appreciate all you guys. We're getting to 100 episodes in the next couple of weeks. It's winding down, guys. This is the time of the year that I love because, in July, we celebrating the 4th next month. And then, if you like NFL, you got not spring training. I was about to say spring training, but you got training camp and all that stuff leading up into August to preseason games. So we're right around the corner. So, but like as CJ said, he covered all that stuff as far as Father's Day coming up. Support our sponsor. As far as Alma to get your pop something, your uncle, nephews, you can shop on there as well, and then get those guys some stuff. So I'm gonna keep it short and tune in Sunday as we drop a Power of the People where we answer your questions. If you have questions, Hersh should get those questions if you drop them in the comments tonight. And don't forget what he told you guys at the beginning of the podcast. What do you guys think of the series between us and Clemson this week as far as baseball, if you're a baseball fan? So drop those comments as well. Make sure you like, subscribe, and put the notification bell up there so anytime we drop, you already have it. And as always, go Gators.
Go Gators, baby.